Raindrops falling on our heads. Joint practice with the Commanders. Rodgers wasn't there, but Mike Will was. Whoo, we got a lot to talk about. So much so that we're bringing in one of the insiders to talk about it. Stay tuned. Boy Green meets Wudi.
Zoinks! And it is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever done.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Welcome to another episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. It is your boy James Wudi, Mr. All Caps, No Cap. We got Boy Green, first of his name, the man behind the channel. And today, I know everyone's always saying, TGIF. Forget about TGIF. TGI TPT, baby. Thank God it's Third Party Thursday, best day of the week. We do have a third party, and this is a special one because so far, right, we've had Jets fans, right? Just, three Jets fans. Sure. We talking New York Jets, all that stuff. But no, today, not only do we have somebody, a joint episode, if you will, but this is the managing editor. This isn't just a fan. This is a managing editor of the Commanders Wire, part of that USA Today network. We just reeled in someone big. Bryan Manning, come on down. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Thanks for that great intro. Happy to be joining you. Talk some football.
That's right. Yeah, I'm excited. And before we get started, Bryan, two things here. First off, we got to welcome a member to the YouTube Coffee Club. Appreciate that. K-Brock joining us here on the membership. I appreciate that, K-Brock. Thank you so much for joining the Army or rejoining the Army in your case. And then also one weird thing here, Bryan, part of our YouTube membership club, which was a historic moment earlier in the morning show. We had 50 new members join us this morning, which was spectacular. But we were talking about emojis, and sometimes we honor some of our great fans with new emojis. And it is official, Tio. You guys can use it in the chat. That is part of the emojis. Tio and a butterfly with a lot of New York Jets action. So shout out to Snowball for making this. This is a sight. And Tio, you are now forever immortalized in emoji form. Come on. What better, when you're on your gravestone, it's going to say that you were once an emoji, Tio. So there you go. That is officially in there. God bless America. And with all that being said, Bryan, let's get started. Let's dive into the deep end of the pool with you. We have the joint practice today in the crazy weather. We'll have the preseason game starting on Saturday. It's a preseason opener for both of us here. Let me ask you, with the joint practice now in the books, it has since happened, and there's a lot of takeaways we could get from it. Heading in, Bryan, are you a fan of joint practices? It seems to be a new thing in the NFL. And secondly, what were you hoping to get out of it that occurred earlier today?
Definitely a fan of joint practices, more so than the preseason games. As far as today, I just wanted, nobody to get hurt for either side, going into these practices. That's the most important thing. And mainly to get the rookie quarterback some good work, to get in that offensive line, which had a lot of questions coming in, and we kind of saw why today. That was an issue. Of course, some of the top guys didn't practice. Really wanted to see the rookie left tackle practice. He didn't practice, nothing serious, but they weren't going to risk anything with a little hamstring or something like that. So other than that, those were the main things that I wanted to see out of the joint practice.
Go ahead, Wudi.
I mean, definitely a lot of change. There's a lot of things, right, happening Like you said, you got some rookies coming in, new coaches, right? Pretty much new everything, starting from the ground, building up. You highlighted O-line as a place that there were question marks. Where would you say you were most confident in the roster and in the coaching staff? Like, Dan Quinn's defense, Cliff's offense. Where were you most comfortable coming into today?
I'm definitely confident in this coaching staff. I still don't know that they have enough horses to win a lot of games this year. They're definitely going to be a lot better. I mean, you guys remember that December game last year between these two teams? I mean, it was had that last second field goal not happened, they probably wouldn't have Jaden Daniels now. So, but anyway,
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah,
I understand what you're trying to say there. You're welcome.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. So that was a big one. Jacoby Brissett tried to give it away, but it worked out. No, I'm definitely confident in Quinn. I'm confident in the entire coaching staff. The best unit on the team is without a doubt the defensive tackle group. Other than that, I don't know that the linebackers are good now. I mean, I would say for the past 5 years, Washington had the 32nd best linebackers, and that's crazy when you consider the head coach was a 9-year player in the NFL as a linebacker, and the defensive coordinator played 10 years in the NFL as a linebacker, and they coached the worst linebackers in the NFL. But Bobby Wagner and somebody you guys know, Frankie Louvu, are the linebackers, and they're both really good. So I would consider those. And what Quinn has made an emphasis on this offseason, you see this in football, you see it in baseball. You build up the middle. And he's definitely with the defensive tackles, the linebackers, safeties, he signed Biotish in free agency to play center. He's shoring up the inside, and we'll go from there. But those are probably the things we're most confident in on a Washington perspective. And you got great players like Terry McLaurin around there. I just don't know that he's got enough help.
Yeah, I will say just a quick follow-up on that. I couldn't believe that you guys were able to get Austin Eckler for relatively nothing. I know the running back market is what the running back market is, but Austin Eckler, I know he's had some injury issues, but boy, when he's on the field, he's been one of the most productive running backs in the NFL. That's a pretty exciting addition.
Yeah, I think people are sleeping on him because he had a bad year last year, but San Diego had a kind of a year like Washington last year. Everything was bad. I mean, there was nothing really good that happened there, and he fought I think it was a hamstring injury all year. He tried to come back too soon, and as a running back, you have those things that nag you and everything. But I think it was a great acquisition because they have Brian Robinson, so they have a good stable of backs, and I think Kingsbury's going to be a pretty good coach for him. With Jaden Daniels, I think it's a good mix. He'll know how to use the different personnel.
All right, well, let me go to a fan question here. We have DeFore11 on New York Sports. Appreciate Uncle Tio asking this. Are you happy about what you've seen from Jaden Daniels? And as we've already heard confirmed, Jaden Daniels not only getting reps coming up here in the preseason opener, but he will start. Dan Quinn saying he earned that right to start, so that will be his first obviously preseason action with no Washington preseason game before this against this New York Jets defense. That should be a really nice challenge, despite the Jets haven't revealed their plan yet on their starter situation, but a really good opportunity here for Jaden. Are you happy about what you've seen, and what are expectations for the first preseason game from the number 2 overall pick?
100% happy. He's never mind how he's handled everything off the field. He's pretty low key guy, but he come in and he's earned the respect of the veterans. He's the first guy to show up. He's a film rat, all the things you hear about. But in practice, he was sharing first team reps with Mariota, and you guys know Mariota is just not very good. But he was splitting the reps with him, and it's gradual. It was clear he was so much better. I mean, if you saw the two of them, you would think that Mariota was the rookie. It was that much difference, and they've made Daniels earn the reps, and he's taken over. And last week he's pretty much dominating the first team reps. So everything's a matter of making him earn it, and he's done that. He doesn't have a problem with it. He said that when they asked him what was it like to be a star rookie quarterback, he said, "I'm not a star, I'm a rookie," which was the perfect attitude you want to hear from any rookie quarterback, because he is a star whether he wants to admit it or not, coming in with the expectations.
Sure, certainly. Go ahead, Wudi.
Well, we're definitely excited to see how many snaps or how many drives do you think he'll play this weekend?
I think 2 drives at the most. I do, and I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him play a full quarter at least. I mean, they need it, but it all depends on how much quality work they think they got today, which it wasn't good work, obviously, but it's good for the rookie quarterback because he got to go against a really good defense. So, I would like to see at least a couple of drives. I would like to see more than a couple of drives. I expect a couple of drives.
Fair enough. Random question here, just because I just was writing a piece for Heavy.com about the 49ers signing Robbie Anderson, Chosen Anderson, Robbie Chosen, Robbie. I'm not sure what the latest name is, but they signed him amid all the Brandon Ayuk stuff. And Washington has been mentioned as a team that could be in the mix. There was some of the viral stuff between Brandon Ayuk and Jaden Daniels, former Arizona State teammates at one point. I'm curious. Do Washington people think they're still in the mix there? Is that something you guys would like to see to give you some more talent around Scary Terry?
Well, I think anytime you could get a guy like that, you would want him. But it sounds like to me that Adam Peters had discussions around the draft because, he came from San Francisco. He had a hand in drafting in Ayuk, so he knows him well. So, and the fact that he was interested tells you that he would like to have Ayuk in Washington. But once they had 9 draft picks, I think they might have been willing to trade a second rounder and some change back in April. But once the draft passed, they're not going to give up future picks. And the way they look at it is if he doesn't agree to a deal with San Francisco, he's a free agent next year, barring a franchise tag. Hey, we can sign him then because they have plenty of room. I mean, I don't think that ever makes it that far, but as far as a trade, I don't see it happening on Washington. I think they're done. I think they're going to wait and see what they have this year before they commit anything. They're definitely not going to trade premium picks.
Again, we're speaking with Bryan Manning here, the managing editor for the Commanders Wire. It's part of the USA Today NFL Wire Network. Go ahead, Wudi.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about the team as a whole, I feel like when you look at the Commanders, like you said, right, defensive tackle position, right, trench warfare. If you look at the rest of the division, the NFC East, I feel like there's a lot of strong trenches in that division.
For sure.
Where do you see yourself or see the team stacking up in that division? Are you guys worst to first? That's something that we've been saying year after year. It hasn't happened yet. But where do you guys see yourself this season, specifically in regards to the division?
That's a good question. The way I look at this offseason, Washington got better a lot better. Whether we see it this year or not, it started with the ownership. Obviously, that was last year, but a lot of the changes he's made came this year. But then you got a competent GM, a competent coaching staff, and then you add all the players in. They're going to be a lot better this year as far as that goes. Now, as far as the Eagles got better this offseason, and the Giants got better this offseason. The Cowboys didn't get better. But in saying that, I just don't see a worst to first situation. I do think they could win 8 or 9 games at most, just not enough to win the division. But I think you're going to see some improvement this year. The Eagles are a wild card to me. They could win 12 games, or they could just blow up because the coaching, the head coach is a moron. But I don't know. I mean, I've never seen a coach take a team to the Super Bowl and then the next year he's almost fired. I mean, that tells you a lot about him. That his 2 coordinators carried him 2 years ago is essentially what it was. But no, I don't see worst to first, but I do think they're going to be a lot better.
Yeah, let me follow up on the head coaching thing. So they end up with Dan Quinn, who I love Dan Quinn, former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, took them to the Super Bowl, has been a terrific defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys in division. You obviously have that. He's a guy, for those who don't know, who's from around here, Morristown, New Jersey. He's a New Jersey guy. and they end up there. But there was a lot of flirtation, or at least from a media perspective, I'm not sure the legitimacy, that Washington, Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is a guy that obviously has that military background from his father and everything else. It just seemed like historic franchise. Guy could bring it back. Seemed like, in a lot of respects, could have been a nice fit. And that's something a lot of people talked about, but it didn't happen. They end up going to Dan Quinn instead. Curious on your thoughts and what you've heard about the Bill Belichick Washington thing and maybe why it didn't happen. And ultimately going to Dan Quinn, a retread, a guy who's getting a second opportunity. You don't always get a second opportunity. Sometimes you only get one whack at the pinata. You're a head coach and you're never head coach again. So he gets a second chance. Curious your thoughts.
Yeah, the Belichick stuff's interesting. I do believe he was interested in coming to Washington. I just don't believe there was ever any interest in bringing him in. And I don't think it would have been a good move. It would have been a move that Dan Snyder would have made because of the name value, and it just didn't fit what they were doing. Now the hype in their offseason was around Ben Johnson of the Detroit Lions. That was all the hype was at, and it ended up being Dan Quinn. And Schefter, everybody believed in the media that it was going to be Ben Johnson, and Schefter was the one saying, let's hold off on this. They really like Dan Quinn, and a lot of people thought Dan Quinn was like the backup plan all along, and Adam Peters really liked Dan Quinn all along, and him being a first-time GM, he was going to pick somebody that he liked to work with. So that's why he ended up with Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn earned the opportunity, no matter what you thought about what happened to Dallas in that playoff game last year. I mean, his body of work over 3 years speaks for itself.
No doubt about it. Go ahead, Wudi.
Definitely. Jets fans, I think we are proud of a couple of our guys. Quinnen Williams is one of them, the most recent guy to get a long-term deal. And part of that extension, part of that offseason where I was sweating, I was not wearing gray during that time period because your boy was sweating. De'Aaron Payne was able to get a deal before that. A couple of guys got paid before Quinnen Williams that kind of set the market. So I'm just curious to know, you see him in and out. I feel like every fan, right, is going to say, oh, our defensive tackle is the best one in the league. Fill in the blank. De'Aaron Payne is a top blank defensive tackle in the National Football League.
And Wudi, before he answers, put some respect. It's De'Ron Payne, man. You're calling him like Darren Williams, the Nets point guard from a bunch of years ago. You put respect on this Washington Commanders stud. Anywho, please, I'm so sorry, Bryan, for that gross mispronunciation of De'Ron Payne's name. But go ahead.
No, I think you don't forget about Jonathan Allen, who I think is the better player between the two of them. That's not knocking De'Ron Payne. I think De'Ron Payne's ceiling's higher. And 2 years ago, we saw him get near that ceiling. Last year was a bad year for both. Like I've mentioned earlier, it was just a bad year for everybody. But they're both, in my opinion, they're both top 10. They're not top 5, but they're both top 10. I think your guys a little higher on the list than both of Washington's guys.
Hey, by the way, real quick, Bryan, are we getting another name change? There's been a lot of iterations here in old Washington land. Are we settling somewhere else here shortly?
Well, a lot of the fan base. Well, you got this. It's such a polarizing topic. You got part of the fan base that absolutely hates the name. I mean, I think everybody does. Nobody really likes the name. And I think part of the name was like they let a bunch of short timers pick the name. Like Jason Wright's gone, the president. I mean, he should have never. And Ron Rivera. I mean, these guys shouldn't have been picking the name in the first place. It should have never been in their hands. But the fans hate most of the fans. Like I said, it's polarizing. But at some point in the future, it would not shock me if they change the name again. And as long as they don't change the color, they definitely need to change the uniforms. Like you could change back to the uniforms that they had before. I'm not so much talking about the helmet. We know the controversy there, but the uniforms are a nightmare. I think that's why Jaden Daniels' jersey hasn't sold more than it has, because people hate the uniforms.
No, that makes sense. I'll squeeze one more in on my side, and then we can throw it back to you, Woody. One of the things I love asking insiders when we're going through the preseason of the other team, like because we're kind of like scouting the opponent, is who are the players that are on the fringe, who are on the roster bubble? Because something like I'll use Joe Douglas as the example. When these joint practices happen, he gets an up close and personal look at the 90-man roster for Washington and gets a lot of intel. And the Jets have joint practices scheduled with everyone they're playing. Panthers next week, the Giants the following week. And when it comes to waiver wire time, where players are getting cut left and right or potentially traded for late round draft choices, a lot of these teams will go back to these joint practices and have an inside look that they wouldn't on some of the other teams in the league. Who are some of the players in your mind that are on the better end for Washington, but just might end up on the roster bubble?
Well, I would start with De'Ami Brown as the wide receiver going into his 4th year. He's had a great camp. He made a big catch today in the practice. He's not going to be cut. He's going to seal down that number 3 job. But he's somebody that was on the bubble coming in. And then you got Jamin Davis, who's a 4th-year linebacker, a 2021 first-round pick. He's not been a quality of a first-round player. He's not as bad as people say, but he's also not lived up to the first-round billing. And they when they brought in new linebackers, they moved him to pretty much to an edge rusher spot. So if he doesn't show anything as an edge rusher, there's a good chance he'll be swapped out for like a 7th-round pick at the end of camp or even cut, because I just don't see a place for him right now. And you got other guys like you guys saw it today, and it's Emmanuel Forbes. He's in his 2nd year. I mean, he took a whipping today, but he gets a lot of heat, and part of me feels sorry for him because it wasn't his. He had horrible coaching last year, but first round picks the year after aren't ever on the bubble, and I don't think he's on the bubble, but if somebody called and wanted to offer something, I'm sure they would listen. But other than that, those are the bigger names that could be on the fringes as far as cuts. I don't really see anybody else really stand out. There's a 4th-year safety named Derek Forrest who's really good, got a lot of starting experience, can't stay healthy. He seems to be surpassed on the depth chart a little bit by some of the newcomers. He's a name to watch. He's a really good player. He just needs to stay healthy. But I could see him being, somebody that's a surprise cut at this point.
Super interesting. All right, Woody, before we get him out of here, any last thoughts or a question?
I got one more.
Sure, please do.
Luke McCaffrey, right? I feel that's a name people love to say. We've seen what his brother has done. We've seen what his father has done. I personally have not seen what he's done because I've seen 0 training camp footage of the Commanders. Thoughts on him and what his trajectory is looking like?
He hasn't really flashed big time in training camp, and I don't know that he was supposed to. I mean, this is a guy, he's only been playing receiver for 2 years. It's like his 3rd year playing receiver. He played quarterback in college, and he took to it. He had a lot of touchdowns the last 2 years, and they're going with upside and genetics here, believing that he's going to be. But he's 6'2". He'll be a really good player, I think, in time. But I don't know that he's going to make that impact early in the year. I think the guy we talked about earlier, De'Ami Brown, and is going to be the guy ahead of him. But no, he's a player to watch for sure. He's been a little quiet in camp, but that doesn't mean he's been terrible or anything. He's just not stood out like some of the other guys.
All right. Well, I could say this, Bryan, on the way out, that all of us 3 in this room here, can virtually kind of handshake each other. No injuries throughout the remaining walkthrough practice we'll likely have tomorrow before we get to the preseason game on Saturday. And, of course, in the preseason game, you mentioned it right off the top that none of us want injuries anywhere. It's all about getting better and hopefully seeing different schemes, different players, different bodies that it can help all of us. So, Bryan, I want to thank you so much for carving out the time and jumping behind enemy lines here to give us some juicy deets. But, again, hopefully no injuries, and thank you so much for taking the time, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me on, and good luck to the Jets this season.
All right, I appreciate it. There you go, Bryan Manning.
Good luck to the Commanders.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Thanks to Bryan for joining us on the show. All right, Woody, any final thoughts here before we sign off?
I just gotta apologize. I'm embarrassed. I definitely have seen like a D apostrophe Aaron I've never heard Duran.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
okay.
have seen the D. So that's
You're
where
not
that
on the
came from.
streets. You're not on the streets like me. I know the deets. All right,
Yeah,
but I helped you
yeah.
out. I helped you out. You said it
Did you
twice,
help
and I'm
me
like,
out, or
okay.
did you?
Well,
I
you
felt
said
like
it
a
once.
bus.
I'm like, all
Like a
right,
bus
should I say
drove over
something?
me.
You
That's what
said
it
it
felt
once, and I said, should I do it? And then you said a second time. Okay, I'm like, enough is enough. You know, we're he's in our house. We're offering him tea. We're offering him drinks. We're offering him crumpets. And then you just spit on one of his crumpets. He's about to eat it. I'm like, geez, he didn't see that you spit on it, but I just want to make sure that everything all good in the house.
That was one. Like it wasn't like a hot to a spit. It was like a Sylvester the cat, suffer and succotash, like accidental spit on the crumpet.
I see.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Nonetheless, I don't think he was incredibly offended. I mean, I'll have to check after if he says, that's the last time I'll ever be on your show. Screw you. I will be like, that's very clear. I think I know what went wrong, but nonetheless, it was kind of cool. And hopefully, guys, everyone who's watching live, thank you to the 250 people that are in the room. First off, like the video, hit subscribe. We appreciate the support. And if this sort of thing you liked, let us know, because actually, me and Wudi were talking behind the scenes about bringing someone else. Now, normally every Thursday, we have a fellow Jets enthusiast. We've had Jake Asmans and Matt O'Leary's and all these other Jets people that have joined us on the show, which is awesome. But we could do this in theory for the future preseason games, the regular season, and have someone from the opponent come on. So make sure you guys let us know in the comments section if that's something that revs your engine in one way or the other, that you really enjoyed hearing some back and forth, some interesting stuff about them and how some of the connective tissue can go. Again, we didn't really get an X's and O's breakdown for Jets Commanders preseason, but obviously once we get into the season, that could be some extra stuff as well. So feel free to let me on. So Bryan, I just got a DM. So before we sign off, I just got a DM from Bryan. Thanks for having me. That was fun. And he said, screw the guy that couldn't pronounce Duran Payne's name correctly. So that's the DM. Now you could say, Paul, are you sure he actually said that? And all I could say is, well, yes.
He didn't say that. You guys know that.
He didn't say that. He did not say. I added a little extracurricular there, but I've heard this. I've heard someone say this once. Don't let facts get in the way of a good story, Wudi.
True. Okay, that's fair. But yes, all right. So, Duran, I've learned something today. I've seen it. I didn't make it up. I didn't put it in the apostrophe there. Somebody put it there. No, it was fun. Definitely let us know. Because I do like that, kind of getting the behind enemy lines, what they're looking at, what they're, looking for. And we did get some stuff out of that, the concern for the O-line, De'Ami Brown. Now, when I'm watching this game on Saturday, I'll be like, oh, that's the guy he was just talking about.
He teased me, though, because my question was, who are some players that are on the bubble that could shake free? And when he said De'Ami Brown, I went, excuse me? He could be on the bubble. He could end up available. And he went well, of course, he's no longer on the bubble. He is clearly the 1-0-3. Oh, it's son of a, what a great tease. That was an incredible tease. But nonetheless, you're right. We did get a lot of good information out of that. Also, I do want to throw this out there because, again, we had this historic 50 membership show this morning, which, again, was terrific. And I have a video from Hep we'll be tweeting out, putting on Instagram, YouTube, and all that in a little bit. But for people that don't know or are unable to gift memberships, you can do what Brandon did, who did this earlier today. He said, Boy Green, did you get the money I sent you for the memberships? I did. Because for whatever reason, it's unavailable to him to gift memberships, not buy it yourself, but gift it for others. He PayPal'd me money for eventually to use for YouTube memberships, guys. So if that is another way you'd like to go to help spread the love, you can do that. My PayPal and Venmo are the same. It's my email. It's Paul, A the letter, ESDENJR at gmail.com. Again, Paul, A the letter, ESDEN at JR at gmail.com. And you can reach out to me on PayPal or Venmo and say, hey, I want to buy membership. So, Brandon, I got yours. We'll actually save that for Boy Green Daily tomorrow morning. And I think you'll understand why when you see what we have planned for tomorrow. So, Brandon, I did receive it, and we will get it out there for that. All right, Wudi.
Definitely, I want to shout out Brandon. Again, in addition to what you just said, my favorite comment of this stream was him saying that we take longer to get ready than his wife. That was back in the beginning. We had to make sure everything was good. We have to, of course, when we have a rival guest, right? We have the referee. They got to say the laws,
Yes.
hey, no biting, no kicking, no punching, all that type of stuff. Once
Sure.
they laid down the law, we touch gloves, and then we were able to start the show. So, a little bit of a delay. I hope it was worth the wait.
Sure.
Okay. And yes, definitely let us know if you want to keep with the opposing, with the joint episodes, the joint party Thursday. Ooh! Joint party Thursday.
Damn straight. We have our Joe Blewett film junkie, and now we got some joints. Hey, baby, we're spreading the love on these as well. So, everybody, like I said, let us know. Even if you're not watching live, we'd still appreciate the comments because that gives us feedback on whether or not you like it. So, if you're watching this after the fact, I know a lot of people do. Just say in the comment, loved it, hated it, and hopefully some reason for either. And like I said, that will kind of influence, hopefully, some of our decisions moving forward for the Third Party Thursday. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. I got to make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We'll be on for a very special Boy Green Daily tomorrow morning. It'll be hard to top the 50 membership thing, so the only way to top it is 100 memberships. I'm kidding, or am I? Yeah, maybe you can figure it out. But we will see you guys tomorrow morning. We got a very special episode, and Brandon, we will gift all your memberships then, and to anyone else that would like to gift memberships, we'll do that as well. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you on Tuesday for Boy Green Meets Wudi, or the preseason game on Saturday. We'll see. Is Wudi making a house call? Should I leave my door unlocked? Is he going to burst in for some preseason post-game action? Who knows? You guys may have to stay tuned for that as well. Thanks everybody. God bless. We'll see you. Peace.